Now, here's Paul Ryan. It's not the beginning of his speech, but we don't have to do that. I need to play this clip first because, for me, it sets the foundation. And you'll recall many of the things we talked about yesterday on the program were in the speech last night. Not because I spoke about them, not because anybody's copying me, but because if you're a conservative, if you have a deep philosophical and value belief system, and you're confident in it, and you've studied it, and you talk about it, these things come naturally. So here's Paul Ryan last night giving his speech. Cut 6, go.
We have responsibilities, one to another. We do not each face the world alone. And the greatest of all responsibilities is that of the strong to protect the weak. The truest measure of any society is how it treats those who cannot defend or care for themselves. Each of these moral ideas is essential to democratic government, to the rule of law, to life in a humane and decent society. They are the moral creed of our country, as powerful in our time as on the day of America's founding. They are self-evident and unchanging, and sometimes even presidents need reminding that our rights come from nature and God and not from government.
Now, this you would think is fundamental to those who live in this country. That's what the Declaration of Independence, in essence, is talking about when it says unalienable rights. Jefferson, when he was drafting the Declaration of Independence, borrowed that from George Mason in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, which he wrote 4.5 to 5 weeks before the Declaration of Independence. Mason borrowed it from, among others, John Locke in his second treatise on government, where John Locke spelled it out. And John Locke was one of many brilliant philosophers during a period generally referred to as the Enlightenment. The Scottish Enlightenment, the French Enlightenment, the British Enlightenment, the Enlightenment. So are our liberal friends enlightened? Do they understand the point? The point is that if you believe that government is the source of rights, then government can confer rights and government can remove rights. In other words, you're giving a handful of men, in essence, power over your life, power over you. It is, in fact, a prescription for genocide. It's a prescription for totalitarianism, despotism of every sort. And so, no, we don't get our rights when we're born here on earth from some government or a collection of men. We're born with these rights. We have a right to our own sovereignty. We have a right to be happy. We have a right to preserve our families. We have a right to earn a living so we can feed ourselves and feed our families. We have a right to shelter ourselves from weather, from other creatures, so forth. We have a right to protect ourselves. These are rights. These are God-given natural rights. That's what's meant by that. When you're born, you have these rights. And this is a struggle in our country and other countries. That is, to preserve these rights. We conservatives believe that we have to fight to preserve these rights against an all-powerful government that's becoming more powerful by the day, more centralized, more concentrated, where fewer and fewer politicians and what I call masterminds are making decisions about our liberty, our right to life, our right to live as we wish, because they have some master scheme which they never define, the blueprint of which does not exist, to reorganize our society, to mold us, to reshape us, to endlessly calibrate how we live. You don't want to live that way, folks. You're not a subject. That's not how our country was established. You're in charge, and the politicians do what you say. With that framework, the reason I played that particular clip of the great speech that Paul Ryan gave yesterday on MSLSD, there's this guy Touré, or I call him Tourette's. He's a nasty, really just a punk, very ignorant. He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He's a chip on both shoulders. This is a man who's never experienced totalitarian regimes. This is a man who doesn't appreciate his liberty. Hat tip, right scoop, cut 17, go.
But more to what I want to talk about, two main points. He loves this line of our rights come from God and nature, which is so offensive to so much of America, because for black people, Hispanic people, and women, our rights do not come from God or nature. They were not recognized by the natural order of America. They come from the government and from legislation that happens in relatively recent history in America. So that line just bothers me to my core.
Well, it bothers you to your core because you have no core, you moron. None. It's government that enslaves. There were governments in the colonies that authorized slavery. You know nothing about Abraham Lincoln. You have no understanding of your own country. Lincoln would point to the Declaration of Independence and what I'm talking about over and over and over again to justify the continuance of the most destructive war in terms of casualties that we ever had, the Civil War. And he would refer to that declaration and unalienable rights time and time again. I'll explain more when we return.
If you're trying to reach Mark on the air, call him at 877-381-3811. The Mark Levin Radio Show continues.
Now, who is this little creep Touré who has a show on MSLSD? We have Googled his name. He's an American novelist, essayist, music journalist, cultural critic, and television personality based in New York City. He's the host of Fuse's Hip Hop Shop, and on the record is now a co-host of The Cycle on MSLSD. I said, well, what else? Oh, he went to the Milton Academy in Milton, Massachusetts, which says Milton Academy is a coeducational independent preparatory boarding and day school in Milton, consisting of a grade 9 through 12 upper school and grade K through 8 lower school. It's a boarding school. Preparatory school. Poor Touré. He's had to work his way up from preparatory school to essayist, poet, MSLSD. Life's been so hard. And imagine, preparatory school, all these things, and he's still as dumb as a log. He still has zero comprehension of why his country is blessed and why he's blessed to have been born here by accident, like the rest of us. The idiot thinks your rights come from government. So let me ask you something, Touré, a.k.a. Tourette's. Let me ask you something, Tourette's. The North Koreans, where do their rights come from? They come from government too? The Zimbabweans, where do their rights come? They come from government too? The Cubans, where do their rights come from? Genius, Milton Academy. They come from government too? How about the Third Reich? Those people. The Jews in the concentration camps. Did they pray to government? Please, please, please give us our rights back. Please give us our rights. Is that what they were thinking? You little jerk. Don't you get it? No, he doesn't get it because he's a little jerk. In the middle of the Civil War, or I should say, shortly before the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln answered those. Who said, how did we found a nation that promoted slavery? He said, we didn't found a nation that promoted slavery. We founded a nation that would fight to end it. Oh, how so? Lincoln, when he was running for the Senate in 1858, he said, in the founders, please listen to this, I'll get to all the speeches and everything else, but this is important. We have to, I want us to understand how the left thinks and how perverse they are and why we must defeat them or we're doomed. Lincoln in 1858, running for the Senate, he says, quote, in the founders' enlightened belief, nothing stamped with the divine image and likeness was sent into the world to be trodden on and degraded and imbruted by its fellows. He's talking about the Declaration. He's saying, read the Declaration. You cannot have this Declaration of Independence and perpetuate slavery. So his point is the adoption of the Declaration of Independence ensured that slavery would have to be addressed sooner rather than later. He went on, Lincoln. They grasped not only the whole race of man then living, but they reached forward and seized upon the farthest posterity. Talking about the founders. They erected a beacon, that's the Declaration, to guide their children and their children's children, and the countless myriads who should inhabit the earth in other ages. Lincoln said, wise statesmen as they were, they knew the tendency of prosperity to breed tyrants, and so they established these great self-evident truths that when in the distant future some man, some faction, some interest should set up the doctrine that none but rich men or none but white men were entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, their posterity might look up again to the Declaration of Independence and take courage to renew the battle which their fathers began, so that truth and justice and mercy and all the humane and Christian virtues might not be extinguished from the land, so that no man would hereafter dare to limit and circumscribe the great principles on which the Temple of Liberty was built. That is what Lincoln said. That is what Lincoln said. It's often said, they fought the Civil War, but Lincoln didn't really give a damn about slavery. That's 1858. It's before the Civil War. 1858. When Lincoln said we have to keep our Union at any cost, he knew what that meant. He meant keeping the Union at any cost meant eventually abolishing slavery. Did you know that the first draft of the Declaration of Independence, drafted by Thomas Jefferson, included a sentence in which he urged the eventual abolition of slavery? Did you know that? Did you know it was rejected by the delegates from Georgia and South Carolina? Now, these men were fighting for their survival. The war had really broken out just before the Declaration of Independence, just before they met in Philadelphia. So they wanted to put out their declaration for the whole world to see, so the whole world would know why they were going to war, so their fellow colonists would know why they're going to war. But the war had already begun. And they were trying to convince also many of their fellow citizens to, to support them and to support their effort. Because about a third of them didn't. And right through the war that went on for 8.5 years, a third of them didn't. They were supportive of the crown. About a third of them didn't give a damn, stayed out of it. And about a third of them fought the Revolutionary War. I could go on and on about this, but I'm not going to. But this guy had a preparatory school education. He's among the beautiful people in Manhattan, essayist, poet, phony thinker. And he despises his own country. And I'm convinced it is not only a mental problem, but it's an educational problem. He doesn't know what I just told you. And by the way, he's not open to knowing what I just told you. But he's been so indoctrinated with hate and poison, he's incapable of seeing the light. What I read to you is in a Meritopia. Because every time I write about liberty, every time I write about our history, every time I write about conservative philosophy and so forth, the same issue comes up. Hey, what about slavery? So I confront it and I address it every single time. It's abhorrent. That's why we conservatives reject it in all of its forms. That's why we conservatives embrace individual sovereignty. That's why you hear us quoting accurately the Declaration of Independence, including its multiple references to God. That's why we embrace and revere the Constitution of the United States, which in essence was born of the Declaration of Independence to preserve your liberty, to preserve your sovereignty, to protect your family. Because the founders knew, and the framers of the Constitution knew, that our rights don't come from government. Tyranny comes from government that's out of control. And I can give you 1,000 examples from the beginning of man. I can only give you a handful of examples of governments that were set up for the purpose of the preserved liberty and for the purpose of restraining themselves. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, that jerks like this are dragging us over the cliff, and we must resist it. That's why Paul Ryan's speech was so outstanding. That's why Condoleezza Rice's speech was so outstanding. That's why Susana Martinez's speech was so outstanding. Because we are different from the left. We do have compassion. We do believe in humanity. If you favor more government, you don't. Certainly at this stage, where the welfare state's collapsing and they continue to grow it, where individuals are losing more and more of their liberty and their property rights, how could you possibly argue that your rights come from government when the EPA is trying to take your farm away? Or when the EPA is shutting down this plant and that plant? Or when the government's telling you what kind of car you can own, what kind of light bulb you can have. They have to approve your toaster and on and on and on. These are rights? What is this? As I've said to you many, many times before, how is it that we have the insight, the wisdom, the judgment to vote for our leaders, but we can't even determine what kind of toilet to piss in? Because they determine it. Something wrong with that, don't you think? But not with Tourette's. I mean Tourette. I mean whatever. Now, when we come back, Paul Ryan also took some criticism from a dear friend of mine. I'm not going to name him, but he's a big-time supply sider, and he says, look, you got to be talking about economic growth more. All that stuff, you can hit it, but economic growth. Thinking to myself, so tax cuts, that's it? I mean, I'm all for them, don't get me wrong, but that's it? $100 trillion in debt? The debt is staring us in the face, it's punching us in the nose, it's going to smother any chance that our children have at liberty, and I'm just supposed to talk about tax cuts? If you're Paul Ryan, no, that can't work. We want growth, but you can't have growth when you have massive deficits. And even more than that, economic liberty is tied to political liberty. I want to talk about that in a moment, too. You okay with this, folks? I mean, I could play. I'm going to get to some of these clips. Well, I changed my mind. I am going to give you a little bit more on the Romney speech. I am Mark Levin. Our number is 877-381-3811. Romney's going to say, among other things, I am running for president to help create a better future, a future where everyone who wants a job can find one, where no senior fears for the security of their retirement, an America where every parent knows that their child will get an education that leads them to a good job and a bright horizon, And unlike the president, I have a plan to create 12 million new jobs. It is 5 steps. This is what I thought was important. First, by 2020, North America will be energy independent by taking full advantage of our oil and coal and gas and nuclear and renewables. Second, we will give our fellow citizens the skills they need for jobs of today and the careers of tomorrow. When it comes to the school your child will attend, every parent should have a choice, and every child should have a chance. Third, we will make trade work for America by forging new trade agreements, and when nations cheat in trade, there will be unmistakable consequences. Fourth, to assure every entrepreneur and every job creator that their investments in America will not vanish, as have those in Greece, we will cut the deficit and put America on track to a balanced budget. And fifth, we will champion small businesses, and he capitalizes small. Why not just all businesses? America's engine of job growth. That means reduce, let me just say this. This PC stuff, I'm just saying, I'm not even criticizing. I'm just saying everybody feels they have to always say small. I say small business too, but I also try and recover quickly and say all business. Big business has employees too. Employees who have families. Medium-sized businesses have employees too. Employees with families. Is it nobler to work for one size business or another, or to have grown a business smaller? I do not like how we cede so much territory to the left. I just don't like it. Anyway, and fifth, we will champion small businesses, America's engine of job growth. That means reducing taxes on business, not raising them. It means simplifying and modernizing the regulations that hurt small business the most. And it means that we must rein in the skyrocketing cost of health care by repealing and replacing Obamacare. I don't know what they have in mind in terms of replacing it. I just don't. He goes on, we will honor America's democratic ideals because a free world is a more peaceful world. This is the bipartisan foreign policy legacy of Truman and Reagan. And under my presidency, we will turn to it once again. Oh, let's see here. We do have this. That America, that united America, can unleash an economy that will put Americans back to work, that will once again lead the world with innovation and productivity, that will restore every father and mother's confidence their children's future is brighter even than the past. That America, that united America, will uphold the constellation of rights that were endowed by our Creator and codified in our Constitution. That united America will care for the poor and the sick, will honor and respect the elderly, and will give a helping hand to those in need. Now that's enough. So you'll hear much more than that when Romney gives his speech. I'm guessing in like an hour and a half or 2 hours, well after this program's over. Quickly, just a few clips from Paul Ryan before they become stale. But, only 20 million people watched the convention last night. So potentially millions of you didn't even hear it. We're going to do a couple of these quickly. Mr. Producer, cut one, go.
I'm the newcomer to this campaign, so let me share a first impression. I have never seen opponents so silent about their record and so desperate to keep their power. They've run out of ideas. Their moment came and went. Fear and division is all they've got left. With all their attack ads, the president is just throwing away money. And he's pretty experienced at that. 23 million men and women are struggling to find work. 23 million people, unemployed or underemployed. Nearly 1 in 6 Americans is in poverty. Millions of young Americans have graduated from college during the Obama presidency, ready to use their gifts and get moving in life. Half of them can't find the work they studied for or any work at all. So here's the question. Without a change in leadership, why would the next 4 years be any different from the last 4 years?
Which is the point of the prior caller who said Obama has succeeded at what he wanted to succeed at. Paul Ryan also talked about more debt from the stimulus. Cut 3, go.
What did taxpayers get out of the Obama stimulus? More debt. That money wasn't just spent and wasted. It was borrowed, spent, and wasted. Maybe the greatest waste of all was time. Here we were, faced with a massive job crisis, so deep that if everyone out of work stood in single file, that unemployment line would stretch the length of the entire American continent. You would think that any president, whatever his party, would make job creation and nothing else his first order of economic business. But this president didn't do that. Instead, we got a long, divisive, all-or-nothing attempt to put the federal government in charge of health care. Obamacare comes to more than 2,000 pages of rules, mandates, taxes, fees, and fines that have no place in a free country.
These are imperative and strong statements that he's making. Then he goes on, he talks about how Obama is really an empty suit. He's adrift. Cut 4, go.
Obamacare, as much as anything else, explains why a presidency that began with such anticipation now comes to such a disappointing close. It began with a financial crisis. It ends with a job crisis. It began with a housing crisis they alone didn't cause. It ends with a housing crisis they didn't correct. It began with a perfect AAA credit rating for the United States. It ends with a downgraded America. It all started off with stirring speeches, Greek columns, the thrill of something new. Now, all that's left is a presidency adrift, surviving on slogans that already seem tired, grasping at a moment that has already passed, like a ship trying to sail on yesterday's wind.
I thought that was excellent. This whole speech was excellent. Now, Ryan, what's missing? We talk about this all the time. He asks, what's missing? Cut 5, go.
President Obama was asked not long ago to reflect on any mistakes he might have made. He said, well, I haven't communicated enough. He said his job is to, quote, tell a story to the American people. As if that's the whole problem here? He needs to talk more, and we need to be better listeners? Ladies and gentlemen, these past 4 years, we have suffered no shortage of words in the White House. What is missing is leadership in the White House.
Yeah, beautiful. By the way, a footnote, I was listening to the top of the hour news, and I could be wrong, but it sounded like they decided to spend more time on Debbie Wasserman Schultz's vicious attack on Paul Ryan and the Republican convention than on the actual statements that were made at the Republican convention. Now, there's nothing we can do about this except defeat them. Defeat the whole damn bunch of them. Now, here's the clip that I played in the first hour and addressed, where we actually have leftists in this country who reject the Declaration of Independence and thereby reject the greatness of our founding. They just reject it. So you can imagine why they support Obama, and this is important. If Obama's supporters reject the Declaration of Independence, the notion of God-given, natural, unalienable rights as opposed to government-given rights, if his supporters reject it, Obama rejects it too. Cut 6, go. Cut 6, it froze. Our system froze. Is it unfrozen now or not? Go ahead.
We have responsibilities, one to another. We do not each face the world alone. And the greatest of all responsibilities is that of the strong to protect the weak. The truest measure of any society is how it treats those who cannot defend or care for themselves. Each of these moral ideas Each of these moral ideas is essential to democratic government, to the rule of law, to life in a humane and decent society. They are the moral creed of our country, as powerful in our time as on the day of America's founding. They are self-evident and unchanging, and sometimes even presidents need reminding that our rights come from nature and God and not from government.
And fundamentally, ladies and gentlemen, Obama doesn't believe that. Neither do the leaders of his party. Neither do his surrogates, who we call reporters, who are nothing but mouthpieces. Final one. Ryan closing his speech last night. Cut 7, go.
So here is our pledge. We will not duck the tough issues. We will lead. We will not spend the next 4 years blaming others. We will take responsibility. We will not try to replace our founding principles. We will reapply our founding principles. The work ahead will be hard. These times demand the best of all of us. All of us, but we can do this. We can do this. Together, we can do this. We can get this country working again. We can get this economy growing again. We can make the safety net safe again. We can do this. Whatever your political party, let's come together for the sake of our country. Join Mitt Romney and me. Let's give this effort everything we have. Let's see this thing all the way through. Let's get this done.
Mark Levin.
I am really, really hoping, strongly hoping, that Romney gives a powerful, great speech. Not for his sake, for the nation's sake, for your sake. So the cable channel I'm watching, of course, is pushing Jeb Bush. And, of course, there's Karl Rove pushing Jeb Bush. I don't know. Maybe we should change the name of our favorite cable channel. Just a thought, not a criticism. Let's take some calls, shall we? I think I will. Rick, Tampa, Florida, home of our great affiliate, WFLA, and the Republican National Convention. How are you, sir?
Mr. Levin, let me first say I'm humbled, and it's an honor to speak with you. And
thank you, and you're a delegate, right? Well, thank you.
Yes, that is correct, sir. And I'd like to say that this is the most energized, exciting convention. It is the complete opposite of 2008, and it just brings to mind Ronald Reagan. It's just, you feel it. You feel it. The place is a packed house, standing room only, and just one great speech after another, and I believe leading up to another speech that's just going to be the TKO to Barack Obama. I'm expecting a Reagan-like speech. I can just feel it. I can feel it in my gut. And, Mr. Levin, you don't know how much this means to me. I'm a 9/11 survivor, and there are tens of thousands of us whose voices were never heard. We never took a dime. We kept going. The country was at war. We made sacrifices. I went on. I had a fracture in my neck. I ignored it. We made the sacrifice because we loved our country. I'll never forget when I picked myself up. I didn't go the other way. I went back towards the building, helping people. And the reason why I'm saying this is because since Mr. Obama has been elected, I feel like I've been just kicked around, and the sacrifices that we all made have just been treated with such blatant disregard. Can you even imagine what it's like for an individual? I was a CFO. And all I focused on without a building was getting my employees paid 2 days later. And then I hear months ago that he's taken $750,000 of our tax money to build a soccer field for the guys that put these scars on my body and the pain that I live with every day. We need Mitt Romney. With all my heart and soul, I know this man is a good man, and he'll enable us to be proud again and to be respected again in this country. And just know that your work is just so highly respected, and you guys are the warriors, and you keep us going. You keep us with our faith, and we keep fighting because we know we're going to get to the end. The light at the end of the tunnel, it's here now.
You know, Rick, that's very compelling what you just said, and very heartfelt.
Tears in my eyes talking to you, because you have no idea how much you mean to me. And, you know, I have all your books. Thank you for the signed one. You guys are the warriors. You're the guys who kept us walking forward, not backwards, not surrendering. And as I said before, there's tens of thousands of us that were 9/11 survivors. Didn't take a dime. We just kept fighting. And to have to be put through this with a guy that has such blatant disregard. You know, I wake up every day, I fear this guy's going to pardon all these guys down in Guantanamo. These are the things we're living with. We need a guy like Paul Ryan to make us proud again and to know that our sacrifices were worth it.
Well, Rick, you just told millions and millions of people. It really is a great honor to have you call in. You listen to the show while you're on the floor?
I've been listening to you for 15 years. Please, come on.
All right. Well, God bless you, Rick. You take care, man. How long have I been on the air? 10? Something like that. He's from New York, so he's heard me as a guest many times and as a guest host. So I think he speaks for many, many, many of us, doesn't he? I really am wishing. I really want this Romney speech to be good. And can I tell you something? Even if it's not good, we have to win. We have got to defeat Barack Obama, period. I'll be right back.
They can clone the others, but there's only one Mark Levin, and you can call him at 877-381-3811.
That call before the break from a delegate in Tampa at the floor of the convention, a 9/11 survivor, was stirring. It was stirring. I want to pledge to you. I want to pledge to you because I know so many of you come to this program not only to hear what I have to say, but to work things through, all of us together, during these very, very challenging times. I want to pledge to you. I will do everything humanly possible in this role behind this microphone. Everything humanly possible to help defeat Barack Obama. I've done so up to this point. And I'm going to double my efforts with your help. Just join us every day. You know, next week is the Democrat convention. It's going to be extremely painful. I'm going to pound the hell out of them because it's going to be full of lies and hate and all the rest of it. And you're going to become furious. So come with me, stick with me, because I know what our mission is. No, we're not going to surrender our conservative principles. We're not abandoning anything. We're going to help Mitt Romney be a better candidate. We're going to help his campaign, I hope, be more effective. But lest there's any doubt, and I know there's not, I know what the mission is. You know what the mission is. And by the way, there's little things you can do that you must do. For years now, since Liberty and Tyranny came out, I've been calling you the Paul and Paulette Reveres. And I spelled out in that book that if millions of us spend time talking to our children, and if they're old enough to vote, grandchildren, other family members and coworkers and neighbors, if we are, in essence, the unofficial block captains, and we get out 10, 12, 14, 20 people to vote who might not otherwise vote, we will win this thing. We can't rely on Republican institutions. They'll do their thing. We have to do our thing. This is our country. We're fighting for our country. We're not fighting for the RNC. We're not fighting for... You're fighting for the survival and preservation of your own nation. You don't need permission from anybody to do it. Just do it. And many of you are, which is why I revere the Tea Party movement and all the rest of you out there who do this day in and day out. But there are many who don't, and you don't have to quit your job and do it or whatever. Just help. Do it on your own. Save your country. Preserve your liberty. That's our mission. Our ancestors fought for this country. They fought the Revolutionary War and several wars thereafter. They fought the Civil War. They fought in World War I. They fought, by God, in World War II. The Korean War. The Vietnam War. They're fighting now. Our children are fighting now. In Afghanistan and other parts of the world, it's the least we can do to register people and vote. It's the least we can do. Get the absentee ballots. Do it, please. You don't need permission from any party, from any institution. We have a mission here. I'm sure Mitt Romney will give a good speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I've reached the point where I don't care if he gives no speech. We know what we have to do. We know what we have to do. And I do know this about Mitt Romney. Whether I agree with him 100% or not, I know he loves his country. I know he's not a fraud. I know he doesn't want to fundamentally transform this society. I know he's a man of deep faith. I know he's a wonderful family man. Isn't it interesting that Romney has to be prodded to attack Obama? Obama attacks at the drop of a Kleenex. He's off and running. Sometimes I think it's Obama who's giving Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Pelosi and Reid their lines to attack rather than the other way around. It's Obama who's telling his campaign how vicious it must be, how vile its propaganda must be, not the other way around. Obama knows only one thing: ruthlessness. That's not Romney. Certainly not in this campaign, in the general election. But we know. You know, I have people say to me, there's no difference between the parties. Now, look. There are differences between the parties. The Republican Party has largely been status quo and incompetent. The Democrat Party today is the apparatus through which the 1960s retreads, the statists, the utopians, the people who would destroy our society. That's the party through which they operate. Not all the members of the Democrat Party, for crying out loud. There's coal miners in that party. There's people who work on commercial fishing vessels in that party. There's truck drivers in that party. I have relatives in that party, and they're not Marxists. But by God, the leadership is. And if you love this country, and I'll say it, it's time to take off that uniform and put on our uniform. Because while we may not always agree with each other, one thing I damn well know: we would never have a surrogate on TV saying they reject the Declaration of Independence. We would never have surrogates trashing the Constitution of the United States. That much I absolutely know. This has to be done. There's no turning back. There's no way out. This is our country. Do you love your country? Of course you do. Do you want your children to succeed? Of course you do. That caller has stirred me. The caller who just called before the bottom of the hour from the floor, a delegate, he's right. He's right. I don't care if you're a black American or a Hispanic American or a white American. I don't care if you're an Asian American or a Native American. And if I miss somebody, I'm sorry. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. You want to hear this? I don't care if you're straight or gay. Help us save our country. I don't care what your religion is. I'm tired of us being broken up into little factions, into little pieces, and our founders warned us about this, one against the other, where our government tries to manipulate us, so we're at each other's throats. They balkanize us. Enough of that. It's not you against me and me against you. It's us against them. We're being treated like subjects. We're being manipulated like pawns. We are the people of this country. We the people. We're the sovereign. These people work for us. They keep telling us what they're giving us. They tax us. They regulate us. And then they tell us that we should say thank you because you give our kids a couple more years of health care. We're paying for the health care. They're giving our kids student loans. We're paying for the student loans. They're giving us roads. We pay for the roads. They're not giving us anything. They're stealing from us. And this crony capitalism, they talk about millionaires and billionaires on the left. We have millionaires and billionaires on the left complaining about millionaires and billionaires. And they're robbing us blind. The federal government's gotten so big, we don't even know where all this money's going. And then they keep telling us they don't have enough of it, that we don't pay our fair share. Oh, they're not talking about the rich. They're talking about you. You don't pay your fair share. Since when in America do politicians get to tell us, we the people, that we're not paying our fair share? Yes, we have a mission. You and me, all of us. Don't just turn off the radio after my program. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about who to contact, who to call, who to speak to at work. Each of us. So come the night on election night, the first Tuesday in November, November 6th, when the returns start coming in. And you and I are the first to watch them. By God, we better win. We better win. We need to come together in order to do this. The beginning of Ameritopia, and we've talked about this before, whether it's the great Justice Story, one of the great legal minds of all time, the early 1800s, whether it was Abraham Lincoln, before he even ran for the Senate, whether it was Ronald Reagan, and many others, they all said the same thing. They said, in essence, if we lose this country, it won't be because of some foreign enemy. It won't be because of some foreign force. It'll be because we lost it right here at home. We don't have to choose this fate, you know. We don't have to commit national suicide, you know. So I'm asking each and every one, I'm begging each and every one of you. I don't care if you're libertarian, you're social conservative, you're fiscal conservative, you're national security conservative. I don't care if you're an independent. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I'm telling you, help save the country. If not for you, at least for your kids. Think about our history. Think about all those people who came before and died creating this nation, establishing it, keeping the nation together and eliminating slavery, fighting one enemy after another, all the men and women who've perished to preserve this country. Are you telling me our generation is going to surrender this to Barack Obama and this Democrat Party? You're telling me we're going to give it all up after all 2 centuries of liberty, of magnificence? And what of your kids and your grandkids? You're telling me that we're going to enslave them to a massive administrative state that's going to tell them where they can live, what they can eat, what they can drink, what they can drive, what kind of light bulbs. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is this damn crap has gone on long enough. And the day of reckoning is right now. It's right now. You're either with us or you're against us. There's no in between. All right, I've said my piece. Yes, I was moved. I was stirred by that caller. Put things in perspective, didn't he? All right, now, we're going to take a little break here, and I want to tell you about Stamps.com. What if you could take care of everything you mail or ship in a way that saves you time, money, and hassle? Well, you can with Stamps.com. Stamps.com is more than just stamps. It's your 24/7 solution for sending letters and packages. And with Stamps.com, buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and printer. It's like having the post office right at your desk for all your postal and shipping needs, domestic or international. Stamps.com will even give you a digital scale. You can plug it right into your computer so you can get the exact postage for any letter or package, and then have the mailman pick it up. And I use Stamps.com. It's very easy, it's convenient, and it's quick. So right now I have a special offer when you use my name, Mark. It's a no-risk trial plus a $110 bonus offer that includes the digital scale and up to $55 free postage. You really should try it. It's a no-risk trial. So don't wait. Sign up today. It takes just minutes to get started. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Mark. That's Stamps.com. Enter Mark.
Mark Levin.
Pat, Guilford, Connecticut, the great WELI. Go.
What a thrill to talk to you.
Thank you.
Although during the conversation I've been listening to you all evening, you've said so many things I wanted to say myself. Corporate wife, now a widow, loved Ryan's speech last night. Just loved it. I was on the edge of my seat, jumping up and down, yelling. It was just wonderful. And I'm hoping that Romney tonight can just get some of that excitement that I felt with Ryan.
I'm with you. I hope so. But the truth is, you know, this is our country. Whatever kind of speech he gives, the fact of the matter is we need to defeat Obama. And if these two gentlemen are elected, Romney and Ryan, and I hope they are, then we'll hold their feet to the fire, too. Pat, I want to thank you for your call. I meant to mention something. On the Drudge Report, he's reporting that the Pentagon today has threatened legal action against the Navy SEAL who's written a book recounting his role in the raid that killed al-Qaeda chief Osama bin Laden. Quote, in the judgment of the Department of Defense, you're in material breach and violation of the non-disclosure agreements you signed, unquote. So the Obama administration, let's make no doubt about this. Let's not debate this. So coming on from high, Obama has spent, month after month lying about what actually happened on this raid. The compliant media has regurgitated it. One of the gentlemen actually involved in the raid says, no, that's not what happened. And now the Pentagon, under his hack, Secretary of defense, and he is a hack, is trying to shut this guy down. Oh, transparency, right. Right. So this man wants to tell the truth after millions and millions in ads and propaganda spent to promote Obama. Not the SEALs, not the military, but Obama. As if he went in there and killed bin Laden. And now they're trying to intimidate and shut down legally the Navy SEAL who wants to reveal the truth to the American people. Folks, it's all in your hands. If there's enough of us left. It's in our hands. You tired of this? Put an end to it. You've had enough? Put an end to it. You want a brighter future, at least a shot at it? Then we have to defeat this party. We need to take the Senate. We need to hold the House. And we need to take the Oval Office. No, Romney's not perfect. We'll work on it. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute all you heroes out there, and we'll regroup here tomorrow. Good night, America. I'm Mark Levin.